We can review. Last week we covered references again, and then we were introduced to the concept of pointers, which work just like references and have more functionality. One of the important things about pointers is that you can initialize it to point to a variable, and then if you want, you can have it point to another variable. You cannot do that with references. Also, please remember, when you are working with pointers, anytime you want the value of the variable that pointer points to, then you need to use the asterisk or the dereference operator. If you want the address of the variable the pointer points to, simply use the pointer name. And if you want to see the address where the pointer resides, then you have to use the reference operator. Okay. We also were introduced to the concept of dynamic memory, create, use, and delete. However, the use piece is the complicated part when we are programming. So that's why for now this method is not recommended. Instead, we will use the concept of a smart pointer, meaning that pointer manages memory for us and greatly reduces the risk of memory leaks or other issues like two pointers pointing to the same memory. One pointer is deleted, meaning the memory is removed, and then another pointer is still pointing to that data which is invalid. And if you are working with pointers, you have to remember about the move. So if you create a pointer, then the reference is here in main. You want to add it to a vector. We are trying to change this reference, so the move will do that. What does the move do behind the scenes? It rearranges pointers for us. We don't have to worry about that. Also, you can use pointers as function parameters, and you can return smart pointers from functions, okay? Also, we were introduced to the concept of inheritance, where we inherited the savings account from the bank account class, and then we were introduced to the constructor, and mainly to the constructor in a derived class. A derived class is a class that inherits from another class. How this class can use the constructor of the parent class or the base class to initialize a value, okay? We also got introduced to the concept of overriding. So remember, the get balance exists in the bank account, and we just created a simple modification to return the balance plus current interest per month, right? And then get balance is now like the main function. So when we use savings account, the get balance function will be used and not the get balance from bank account. And then we can also add more functionality to the derived class. And here we just created a simple get balance with interest function just to show that we can add more functionality to the bank account. Again, it is important to understand that when we derive from bank account, savings account inherits all the functionality from bank account, and then we can add more functionality to the class, making it a specialized class of savings account type. We also inherited checking account. We didn't add any functionality, but we just showed that it works the same way, right? Like we inherit all the functionality from bank account. We didn't write any code other than the constructors to allow creating a class with zero balance, and then a class with some begin balance, and again we call the constructor with b, right? And if we look in main, then we were able to show that we can create instances of this class, right? As far as overriding, then when we are introduced to the new topics this week, which readings should you read? You should read chapter 15, right? So read chapter 15, and we will introduce the concept of virtual virtual functions, pure virtual functions, which help us implement polymorphism, and abstract classes, which help us implement or model the real world, right? Like, for example, in the bank account, if you think about it, the bank account class is a generalized form of a bank account, and savings and checking account are specialized types. So we can say that the bank account is kind of like an abstract class, so we should not be allowed to create an instance of those. So we'll add some code to make that happen, okay? Also, make sure you read sections 5.12 and chapters 13.1 to 13.7 that talks about file input and output. We'll have one lecture of that so that you can add that functionality to the tic-tac-toe class, okay? And that should be it for this week, okay? So thanks.